am presenting my final presentation for CIT 260, Section 8, or the OOPSI class. I am presenting my online RPG text-based game. I partnered with Chris Kitchens. We were the team Dumbledore, or Snape Kills Dumbledore, I apologize. And we created a Harry Potter themed game. So I have NetBeans pulled up here, and I'm just going to walk through a little bit of what we did and explain the method to our madness here. So I'm going to start with the static class variables and the instance variables. So with the static class variables, all instances share the same copy of the variable. The class variable can be accessed directly with the class without the need to create an instance. So static variables are initialized only once at the start of the execution. These variables will be initialized first before the initialization of any instance variables. So a static variable can be accessed directly by the class name. It doesn't need an object. Instance variables have to have its own copy of the variable. They are instance specific and are not shared among instances. Any instance variable can be recognized if it is outside of a method and is not using the static modifier. So I am going to show you in inventory and then in location charms. So in inventory, we see the static modifier here for the static variables, and we can see this is in the model layer, and it's a good example of the static variables. The inventory is initialized only once at the start, and then is actually it is accessed directly by its class name, so by inventory. Our location. Any of our locations are actually a good example of the instance variables, but we're going to go with charms. It has a public modifier right here, public modifier, and then we decided to use the variable type, the Boolean for the variable type. And so it is called when the user navigates to the location menu. So I'm going to kind of show you here. If the user were viewing this in the model, or I'm sorry, in the view layer, and they decided that they wanted to go to charms, so HC, then it would pull this up here, and they could come down here and choose from the menu which one they want to do. And let's say they're going to ask Hermione for help. So they're going to come down, well, they won't come down, the code will come down, and it'll choose this one, and it'll populate to the user. It'll say, you have been too busy talking to Ron instead of paying attention, so Hermione has offered her help. It's pronounced Leviosa, not Leviosa. So then they could decide if they wanted to run another one of these in the switch statement, or they can just exit and go back to the location menu view. So again, this is the instance variable, and then these are the static. Okay, so then we did use some of these, the next one. So for array list, and enum, we actually don't have an array list. I'll cover a little bit of that here later, but for the arrays, that's where I'll go ahead and start. So arrays are used for a fixed length list of objects of the same data type. So you can't mix and match the data types. The position of the objects in the list may change, but nothing can be added or removed. So they're a little bit limited in that aspect. So they are referenced by an index, and we decided to use an array in the, I believe it was in spells here. So we came into spells, and I used an array down here to print the spells in a list. So all the spells are listed here, and then it just returns them. So you've got the data type, which is a string, and then you have the variable name, which is print to spells. For the array list, it is used as a class. Objects can be added or removed from this list, and they can be of different data types. This makes it ideal for like a player's inventory, where they're picking up items and using them. We didn't actually end up using an array list. We had played with the idea for inventory, and I believe that we just decided to simplify it. And so I can definitely see where that would have worked. in different areas, but it's not something that we ended up implementing. But we did use enums in a couple of places. So enums are similar to arrays because they have a fixed length and all of the objects have to be of the same data type. Again, no combinations there. But they do differ because the objects stored in an enum cannot be changed. So once they're there, and it's not really manipulable. They are referenced by a keyword. So we have an enum here in the spells. All of our spells are here because they're not going to change. All of the spells are the same, and then the same is with the scene. So we did go ahead and add an enum here because all of the scenes are going to be the same. And none of those are going to be added or removed. Now, for the errors, if we go into inventory control here, we do see, so inventory control is going to throw errors from inventory control exception, which is right here, and then this is extended from the exceptions view. So you can see the code that's built in here. Now, when you go into inventory control, so let's say we're going to go with the calc polyjuice. We have two variables, weight and time. And then we list limits on those variables. So the weight that the user enters has to be between 100 or 400. And if it's not, then they're going to get an error. Same with the time. The time is limited between 60 and 190. If they enter something outside of those limits, then they're going to get an error. So it's going to, we've got the if statement here. It's going to throw this error. And then if you go into the location dungeon, which is where we're using the calc polyjuice, it's going to catch it here, and then because this is the view layer, so then it'll display the error to the user. So, and I'll show that a little bit later as well. Now, as far as the character stream goes, I don't believe that we ended up editing this at all. We should have used a character stream in a couple different places where I listed the spells here. We printed those spells. I can't remember where we ended up calling that one from, but for the list items, this one's a good description here. So if I were to go ahead and save it to the file path, I actually already did that before I started the cast. So if I go into where I saved it at, since it's not listed as a character, it shows up kind of funny. I'll get that pulled up here. So there it is. So when I saved it here, I believe, yeah, it rewrote it because I'm pulling it again. So I'll show you again. It pulls it up, and it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense since we didn't save it as a character. But I don't believe that we ended up going back through and correcting that. We ended up spending time working out a lot of our other bugs. So I'm going to run through the game a little bit here. So today we're going to play as Ron. Well, Ron's in there already. So we'll play as Luna. Luna Lovegood. And so we are going to start a new game, and we're going to travel to the different locations. Is how we're going to start. Actually, so I'll show you inventory. We don't have anything in inventory currently. So if you see up here wand, it's required that you have one wand, but we currently have 0 in stock. Then you can see like maybe some of the characters that you're going to meet in the game. We don't have all of these in there just because time didn't allow for us to make sure that we got them all, but some of them are listed throughout the game. And if you wanted to see like the map, it'll pull up an idea of some of like these are just the shortcut codes of where you would go in the map. And then house points. So we'll pull up house points, and currently we are Gryffindor. We have 0 house points. You can also see the spells that maybe we would have used in the game. So if we decided we wanted to see what Alohomora is, you can type that in, and it'll say Alohomora is used to unlock things, doors, chests, you name it. So we're going to go ahead and return. We didn't really use the spells as we had originally intended in our end user stories as far as using them and having an effect, but they do make an appearance a little bit in the game. So we are going to go ahead and start and travel to a location. So we'll start here, and this just explains that the user was given a, they found out that they were a wizard and that they get to go to this wizarding school, but before they go, they have to start at Diagon Alley and get all of their required items for school. So we're going to exit here and make our way to Diagon Alley, and we will start in Ollivanders. I believe that's the only thing that we currently have anything in. So if we go to Ollivanders and we decide that we want to obtain a wand, so we've obtained a wand. Here it says you've obtained a wand. Now you're ready to start casting spells. We're just going to pretend like we went ahead and visited all the other locations. There wasn't anything to pick up in those. So we'll hit exit, and we're going to come back, and I want to go to the game menu to double check my inventory. So I'm back in game menu, and I'm going to go into inventory, and voila, we now have a wand. So we can use that throughout the game. Ideally, we would have liked to have picked up all of these other items here that are in the list, the invisibility cloak, the time turner, all of those, but we just didn't have time to make sure that everything worked. So we're going to go back to the travel to locations here, and we had it built out to where they would visit all of these locations first, then they would get on the Hogwarts Express, and then they could travel to all of these other locations. So let's say we want to go to Hogwarts Express. We've already collected everything that we needed to in order to be ready for our education. So we're on Hogwarts Express, and it says you found yourself on the Hogwarts Express with the one-way ticket to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Enjoy the ride. So we're going to look around, and it says you may see other cabs along the train which contain passengers, most likely students like yourself. And you can either take a nap, eat a chocolate frog, or exit. So for now, we're going to go ahead and exit. And then I'm going to pick one that we have one of our complex equations in. So dungeons is one that I worked with pretty closely. So we are going to go into potions. So HP. So welcome to the dungeon. Today we're going to calculate the dose of Polyjuice potion needed to disguise your character based on their weight and time, and the time that they need to be disguised. So please enter the weight of your character and the time they need to be that need the potion to work. The weight must be between 100 and 400 pounds, like we mentioned earlier. So the time needs to be between 60 and 190 minutes. Once entered, the dosage will be calculated. So I am going to say 20 minutes so that you can see the error. So let's see. And it actually didn't populate the error, so that's interesting. But we'll go ahead and go to the character's weight, which is 160 pounds. And it says, so it populated the error here. So error time must be between 60 and 90 minutes. So we're going to go back and try that one more time. So we'll go back to dungeons. I'm just looking for it on my list here for potions. So HP, we'll go back into potions, and so I'm going to enter in 100 pounds for the time needed, and then we will enter in the character's weight at, the 100 minutes, and then we'll enter in the character's weight at 150 pounds. So then it calculates the dosage you would need up here. So 23.76 ounces for best results. And you can navigate through the rest of the game. We only have interactive things like that in, I believe, Quidditch Pitch and potions, and then Green Dots, which is actually back in the locations menu, or I'm sorry, before they get to Hogwarts. So we have some other fun things in here. So if I go to, I think my favorite was actually the Room of Requirements, so HR. So welcome to the Room of Requirements. It's a well-kept secret of the castle. It provides whatever you might be needing at the moment. Please make a selection. So we decided we are going to duck into the Room of Requirements because we're being chased by Peeves. So we duck into the Room of Requirements, and it says, Peeves caught you out of your dorm after curfew. He is chasing you through the halls and saying loudly in his sing-song voice, wandering around at midnight, April 1sties, tut, 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 naughty, naughty, you'll get caughty. So you duck into the Room of Requirements and until he leaves. So we're going to go ahead and return. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to I'm going to exit this menu. And I am going to save. I'm going to enter the file path. I'm going to enter final presentation. I'll just do final project. Okay, so final project. So it saved it. And then I'm going to come in here and just make sure that we see it in here. So final project, here we go, right there. So then I'm going to go ahead and exit out. And I'm going to quit the game. So then if I come here and run it again, I believe we were playing as Luna before. I'm going to load a saved game. So then I can just type in final project. And it says, currently playing as Luna, current house points 50. So it loaded the game that I had before. So if I go into inventory, I can see that our wand is still there. And we must have picked up the house points probably from getting our wand. So that is our game. And again, there was a lot more that I think that Chris and I had envisioned to implement in the game, but just for the sake of time, I know that the game was really just an exercise to try to master all of the principles of Java. I feel like I gained a lot from this class, but I still feel like there's a lot that I could learn. So I hope that this answers all of the questions for the rubric. I'm not very articulate when it comes to explaining some of these programming principles, but I really do appreciate all of your hard work, Brother Anderson, this semester, and for being willing to screen share at the drop of the hat in order to help explain some issue that we were having. So again, thank you so much for watching my presentation, and have a good rest of your day.